Travis Wayne Goodsell. It is the nature of mankind when they are illiterate to be superstitious, to see signs, to prove their religious faith is true. So often you'll hear of Catholics who see Jesus in a tree or in their toast to try to be faith promoting and give hope to others that their religion is not in vain, that it's not false, that it's not a fraud, that the Pope is actually the vicar of Christ. And I see this in Mormonism, where Mormons create spiritual witness feeling stories to inspire other Mormons to stay Mormon, to carry on, that the church is true, that Jesus is true, that all that the church says about the church is true. And one of those ways to get Mormons to stick with the church are the stories of near-death experiences. I've done the videos recently about reminding you of Chad Daybell's near-death experience back in 2000, not sure when it was, whether it was 14, 15, but in 15 definitely he was pushing his fireside tour of his near-death experience, publishing books, saying that Jesus met him in the spirit world and told him the second coming is near and to prepare for his coming. And so we all know he's now on death row because President Holland, Monson came out and said, no, this is not the second coming. Perry Packer Scott dying was not a coincidence. It was not a coincidence. Nothing to see here. Move along. Keep paying your tithing. And then this year, I saw a YouTube video by an old man who said he had a near-death experience, saw Jesus, and all of these are attempts to become popular, get people to follow you. Actually, he didn't see Jesus. It was the three Nephites. That's right. He saw the three Nephites in his near-death experience. That's right. And all to try to prove by not proving that the church's claims are all legitimate. That in this particular case, that the Book of Mormon is literal history. Because if you can prove that there are three Nephites, then the Book of Mormon is obviously true. Because of the three Nephites when Jesus came and touched them. Touched by Jesus. And on my mission in New York, there was in my district a missionary from Utah. I don't know if he's still around. I can't remember his name, but I remember one morning or day getting a call that there had been a traffic collision. He was riding his bike and got hit by a vehicle and was sent to the hospital. And so I remember going to the hospital with my companion. We were there at his bedside, and he began telling us what he believed was his near-death experience. He was told that the EMTs had confirmed that he had died for several minutes, and he was pretty messed up with the bruising all over his body, broken bones. He was all wrapped up there on the bed, and I wrote down his near-death experience. My dad would throw it all away. He tried to erase my life when the church attacked me in 2008. But he believed that he had seen Jesus in the spirit world. And it's important to understand that if you're not going to invest the effort to study your religion, that you're going to seek for quick, easy answers, look for the easy way out to have faith in a religion, you have no place in that religion. You go to school to get an education and a degree in a specific field so that you can get a career. There is no easy shortcut. You have to put in the work necessary to learn all about that career so that you can be good in that career. You can't just attend and get a passing participation grade and expect to do well in business, especially to have the audacity to demand that the business pay you so that you can have a nice cushy lifestyle without having to endure the student loan payments for the rest of your life. There's a requirement of work to achieve the being of your position. And that's the same thing with religion. If you don't invest in studying your scriptures, if you just are a casual Mormon attending church, skipping conference to go on vacation, and then learning through social media of other Mormons about what happened during conference, even my videos during conference time are commentaries. They're not the conference talks, though I will include video clips from the conference to help you understand that I know what I'm talking about when you don't, because you went on vacation. I stayed here doing live video footage. I invest the time. But for Mormons to be so lax and lazy as disciples, did you know that was Nelson? That was from conference. That's why you don't know where it came from. I should have that, because I've got the whole collection of Nelson on my screen because he is the president. There it is. Lazy learners, lax disciples. Lazy learners, no faith. You can't just be in a position or calling in the church and have the belief that you now have a mantle for that position that automatically infuses your brain with all the knowledge necessary to do the job. But yeah, that same process of embellishing your calling to be faith promoting and protest too much that somehow the church has to be true, as you're the physical facilities representative for the ward, thinking that your inspired leadership is somehow very essential in the church. You're a glorified janitor who's doing it for free because the church is cheap. I've been in that position. And I've seen the horror stories of bishops sending physically disabled persons to do work so that they can earn getting food. But nonetheless, it is through this studying process that you learn where these lazy people who are trying to be faith promoting go wrong. That Jesus doesn't appear in toast because of the first creed of Christianity. To go back to Christians, Trinity God cannot be true. Anybody who does a basic reading of Scripture knows this. And the person who attacked me trying to Trinity explain to me, I guess he thought I was Christian. But nonetheless, you don't need to tell me about Trinity being false. I've been doing the videos. I've been showing you the pictures. Yesterday, I think I did 2 videos where I showed you Joseph Smith's first vision with the first creed of Christianity. And yet, for some reason, Mormons are not making the connection. Still, Mormons refuse to listen, to read, to do the work necessary to learn and to learn how to learn. With this quick, easy process, Mormons become weapons for the church, violating the scriptures that they believe are true, as they're supposed to be loving and kind, and yet Mormons are the worst of human behavior. Not understanding what the beam in the moat is teaching us. And so when you learn how to learn, you can go to the Book of Mormon, 1 Nephi, chapter 1, verse 2, and you read in the learning of the Jews. Any intelligent-minded person would not be so deceptively denialist of hate to say that it's Christian. That is just the worst thing a person could say. And yet, because of President Spencer W. Kimball putting the subtitle, Another Testament of Jesus Christ, you've got a whole bunch of Mormons, even Mormons who leave because they're offended with the crimes and lies of the church, who believe that the church is promoting a Book of Mormon that's Christian. The video yesterday about a Mormon apologist wannabe who's defending the church history from Mr. Beat. Who says that the first vision is a fraud, would go on to say that Joseph Smith saw Jesus And if you're unclear as to what I mean by that, you've never read the first vision, have you? Read the first vision. Yeah, I know. Jesus is in the name of the church in verse 1. And you're unaware of the Joseph Smith papers. That it was Willard Richards who added in the name Jesus Christ. But the first vision, find the name Jesus. You won't. Joseph Smith forgot to put Jesus in the name of the church, and then didn't even call him by name, when apparently he called Joseph by name. It's these kind of things that should send up red flags as a reader, that you need to get some studying in to understand what's being talked about. You can't coast in this church, because Matthew chapter 7 verse 15 warns you why you cannot coast through church. Because there are evil, malicious people who are wanting to con and deceive you, to take your money, to control your lives. And so it is important to test their words and produce the results to judge truth from falsehood. You're supposed to do it with me. You're supposed to do it with the leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so that you are not a lazy learner and a lax disciple getting frauded. And so, knowing the information concerning religion, you would know about the first creed. You have to as a Mormon. The first creed is essential learning for being Mormon because of Joseph Smith's first vision. Verse 19, he talks about the creeds of Christianity. So thus, there needs to be a course, and they won't have it, that discusses how the creeds are all wrong and an abomination. That the professors of Christianity are all corrupt. Otherwise, you as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will not know how to communicate with a Christian. When the Christian says, "You're wrong, we're right." "Oh yeah? Well, my spiritual witness feeling says," yeah, spiritual witness feelings are a lazy learner, lax disciple coasting through this church. You don't know anything with a spiritual witness feeling. If you actually knew your scriptures, you would understand that a spiritual witness feeling is merely the seed that you were supposed to plant and produce the results so that you can then judge it as true or false. You chose not to. You quit after getting the word. And now you're claiming that stuff is true? You don't even know what stuff is that you're talking about. You didn't produce the results. You didn't do the study. You didn't put in the effort and work. Now, if you don't want to be a Mormon and go through all that work, then leave. You are forced to stay, but I mean, seriously, why are you staying in the church, paying this church money, obeying the church according to your interpretation, because you don't listen to them, you ignore certain commandments that social media video vloggers tell you happened, and so forth. You're setting yourself up for ruin. And so I can expose these guys for you by helping you learn how to learn. Now, the Book of Mormon is Jewish, and so you therefore cannot use the first creed of Christianity by simply replacing the nature and character of Jesus and Heavenly Father to non-Trinitarian. You do know what non-Trinitarian means, or do I have to say a body of flesh and bone as tangible as man, separate and distinct from the Father? See, that you understood, because you've heard that sitting in church. Just participating, but not participating. And so, if you understood the first creed, you would understand that they stole the Jewish documents and turned them Christian with that first creed. So in 325 CE, what we now have as the Bible, as well as what was rejected because of the first creed, were turned into literal histories. That Jesus' character, with the name, was selected to be the Christian Christ. Completely, this is an utter hate crime against the Jews. This was the worst of human behavior that a religious leader could do, and Constantine did it. But for Mormons to say that the Book of Mormon is now Christian and literal history is to say the first creed of Christianity that Joseph Smith said was an abomination, all wrong and corrupt, is now true. You are now saying that Joseph Smith is wrong. That it's just the nature and character that the first creed is wrong about. Now it's all true. And this is where you don't understand when people try to con you about near-death experiences, to be faith-promoting, to tell you that Jesus was in a tree or in their toast. They are purposely lying and deceiving, thinking that, well, it's helping you remain faithful to the church. But if a church has to have those kinds of things for people to be faithful, it's not a good religion. So Christianity has their Spanish Inquisition, the attacks on the Jews, calling them witchcraft. And then you got the Church of Jesus Christ with all its abominations. If the church is no longer racist since 1978, they're not the true church. If the church is burning bridges with LGBTQIAPO+, they're not the true church. If they still refuse to grant women priesthood and priesthood office, they're not the true church. So why are there still Mormons in the resistance movements? You're not going to change them. The bishop who sent a letter to the First Presidency asking for a list of questions to give youth rather than doing a free-for-all personal graphic sexual interview, he got excommunicated for that. You can't tell the leaders of the church what to do. And he was excommunicated for simply asking for a list of questions. And so then he formed Protect LDS Children. And they believe that the leaders caved and made the changes to finally allow for the list of questions and allow for a witness to be present. But when you know who these guys are, you know they are not caving. So under Nelson, yeah, little girls can go to the temple at 11 years old and Nelson ordered, with the change in the law of chastity, back to polygamy. So thus child bride polygamy of 11-year-old girls now. You know, Willard Richards wasn't that abominable. Yeah. They framed and blamed Joseph when it was them who were the ones doing it. To justify it, they framed and blamed Joseph. See, Mormons, we're only doing what Joseph Smith ordered. We're just being obedient. These are the clues and tells of wicked men when they frame and blame others to justify their wickedness. It's part of the trap that Brigham Young set. But that's a different story. So, this morning, when uploading Santa Claus being extorted by Jesus, the church is going to post it, I'm going to post it. I saw one of a person who is claiming that Jeffrey R. Holland had a near-death experience. And because I know that if Jeffrey R. Holland is going to claim to have a near-death experience and to have seen Jesus, gotcha. Just like Chad Daybell, who claimed to have seen Jesus and then is now on death row, and the elderly man who saw the 3 Nephites, both ignoring that we can't be Christian, that the Book of Mormon can't be literal history, because that was created by the first creed of Christianity, which, if I have to repeat it again for you, Joseph Smith said was all wrong, an abomination, and corrupt. How hard is this to get through to your heads? You can't lie and threaten me to deny the truth just so that you can maintain your faith bubble? Because you refuse to do the work necessary to learn the truth and to not be deceived by false prophets who only claim the title and deny the powers thereof? And so, I didn't want to watch his video, so I did a Google search and skipped over AI, which dominates the top still. Can't wait for Chrome to be sold off. We can get rid of AI at the top of the screen, which still cannot get anything right. It's supposed to be this great intelligence, smarter than humans, and it's worse than humans. It's actually the cause now of misinformation. Every single topic, it's wrong. And I have to scroll down to find a legitimate authoritative source that I'm looking for. And that is sad and pathetic that Google has failed us as a people, as the human race, with all of this crap. Because you have to get people who are smart to be able to program these things. But for these smart people to program crap for the rest of us is just unforgivable. But nonetheless, I saw many other Mormons likewise having done the videos about Holland's near-death experience. And as I'm reading through, trying to figure out what they're talking about, trying to find what source are you getting this from, I finally found that it was earned empathy that was put out in 2022 by the Church News. Thus the thumbnail picture that will be included in the video. Both he and his wife were talking about earned empathy, that their struggles, I don't know the plural pronoun for my, which would be our conf. But yeah, they've had some medical problems. And therefore, because they've had medical problems, that they've got earned empathy with others who have medical problems. Again, this is the lazy man's way out. They had physical problems, but they are leaders. He's a leader of the church, and so he's not hurting for money. He's not having to struggle to pay medical bills or buy food. He hasn't earned empathy for other people. This is a rich man's con that they always pull. Oh, we're just like you. Just like from Hatch. I did the segment with him arguing with Senator Brown. Hatch says he's from the poor people. And then claimed he was lower middle class. Yeah, my parents said that too when my dad was making $200,000 a year. Back in the 70s and 80s. Well, technically 80s. But dear God, I remember my parents sitting us down one evening and telling us that as kids we're not allowed to tell our teachers or anybody else the income of our parents. We lived, after moving from Placentia to Corona, in brand new subdivision homes. Michigan even was a brand new subdivision home. So Placentia was technically a step backward. But, Ford had problems. My dad got the job because Ford had problems, and then Ford had more problems. So we moved to Southern California. But still, my dad always made sure to get into nice suburban, white-dominated household. You can't do that with a regular job. It cannot be done. You have to have a very nice paying job to get those homes. And yet my parents were still in denial, trying to claim that they were lower middle class. Only when you compare yourself with the 1%. And so, listening to the video and reading over the people's talk, they're trying to force a near-death experience upon Holland. He did not die. He did not, therefore, have a near-death experience, which is interesting because a near-death is actually you died and you came back to life. You're not on the brink of death. Your heart is slowing down. Your breathing is very shallow. No, you die. And then you are revived back to life. I've saw that several times at Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking from guys who overdose and witnessed guys die. Well, one guy didn't even come back to life. He just stopped coughing. I thought, oh good, he got to sleep. And then, oops. So sad that they just sweep it under the rug and you never hear about it, because they file them off as John Does. They have names, they know the names, but because they don't want to pay for any kind of funeral, they declare them as John Does, so they get automatically burned to ash, and you never hear from them ever again. They are erased from history. But on Monday, the 8th of June, 2020, here's where I explain the other pictures. Jeffrey R. Holland was in a conversation with Rabbi Alon Goshen Gottstein, director of the Elijah Interfaith Institute, on that Monday morning, as he's out in Israel. Jeffrey R. Holland was from his home here in Utah, doing a video chat, and it was about an hour, 50 minutes plus. And we find out about, all right, there you are. 2 weeks later, on the 19th of June, the official statement in the church news updated. There was no original. They did not cover it, so it's not updated. Elder Jeffrey R. Holland released from hospital, and they would tell us, yeah, it's not in the picture, you have to read further below, that he had had an episode related to heart conditions on that Monday after his little interview conversation, and they just snuck it through, didn't want anybody to know what was going on. So only those who were watching my channel during that time period knew exactly what had happened. Case number 219CV711. Goodsell versus Corp of President of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I filed a petition over the weekend that would have been released when the lawyers showed up to work on Monday. And as is required, they need to counsel with their clients about every filing that is given to them. But because Holland was in the process of the interview, had to wait until it was over, then he can show up to work. And it may have been at his office. You know, it's unclear. It looks like a desk, like I have. But yeah, you can't see the window to see his location. You can see that the light is shining through the window to him at his desk. And so most likely he was at work to do the interview rather than at home. And so the lawyers would have contacted. There's the latest filing by Goodsell, and they would need to have all 15 present. So waiting until after Holland finishes, they then have a special meeting to discuss the latest filing that I filed. And Stewart was being a dumbass, or actually Waddups in this case. Stewart was the second one that I filed after that. And Waddups was refusing to recuse himself as a Mormon, compromised to the church by paying tithing to the church, and the law of sacrifice, lest we forget, with his magic underwear of covenant bondage to the church to protect them from all criminal prosecution. Thus, you cannot sue the church in the state of Utah. And so knowing this, knowing that Waddups was not doing his job as well as the others, because the original magistrate judge was a lame duck judge. They purposely assigned her to my case to be the lame duck judge, to remind her of her reason for getting fired was for Gaddy versus COP. And so they literally threatened her by assigning her to my case. And you did not hear that in the Salt Lake Tribune, because nobody's doing their research as the press. You're supposed to have somebody who's there at the courts paying attention to all new filings. And you know that Gaddy versus COP was in the press and covered. And so the magistrate judge that gets fired from that case is then assigned to another case against the corporation? And they don't cover it? Yeah, the press of Utah is compromised by the church as well. I had to do this alone. I'm not an educated, degreed, passing the bar, licensed lawyer. I have to do a pro se case, and it's civil, it's not criminal. I'm not allowed to do criminal cases because I'm not an official licensed lawyer. And so there's supposed to be protections for me and some allowances. Nope. This is why you cannot sue the church in the state of Utah. They're advertising AI on the page, the front page of this. Dear God. And so what was in my filing? I did the videos. Whether it's on this channel or on TWG, I did the videos. I presented as carved in stone documented evidence the inverted pentagrams of this corporation claiming to be Christian as evidence that they are frauding everyone. Waddups would then go on to say, this looks like an ad hominem attack, to justify banning it. It's carved in stone evidence. On the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple, Mormons all got taught by Benson about the meaning of keystones, because the Book of Mormon is our keystone. It's in the manuals still. Nelson hasn't gotten up and changed the definition of a keystone yet. It means that the doctrines of Lucifer are taught within the temple. And so, no duh, the church is obsessed with porn. See, you are naked. Father will see your nakedness. Take some fig leaves and make you aprons. Quick, hide. The doctrine of Lucifer. To be ashamed of your bodies. To be guilted. To be forced to have your agency taken and cover up and hide because you're evil. Right, women? Bunch of mean girls. The church made you mean girls. You are lazy learners, lax disciples, automatically believing whatever they tell you, and you don't even bother to do the study and research. Wait a minute, are you saying my body is porn? Yes, that's exactly what Oakes said in his conference talk on pornography. Right at the end. And you didn't leave the church, did you? Because you were on vacation, you didn't hear it. So you didn't believe it when other people said it, when the memes flooded the internet. Church is true, these guys are mean, they're making stuff up. So yeah, that's what caused this little heart episode. While you were sleeping, Sandra Bullock. It's an episode. Fluffy, you're Fluffy. Leaning. Maybe you should watch that show today while you were sleeping. Yep, chick flicks galore. And yeah, the scene where the guy and the kid on the bike, oh, we all know that. That was not scripted. He actually fell off his bike during that scene. Hey, loose. I saw The American President with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening the other day. And his daughter is named Lucy also, and he calls her Loose. Dad. See, now that the empire is formed, there's no reason to continue on with Star Wars that I watched it for. So now I'm in limbo as to what to watch next. But yeah, while you were sleeping, we'll just curl up on the bed, crying myself to sleep. Because nobody wants to get out of bondage. So, yep. Yeah, they purposely did not want me to know. They were using the church news to communicate with me. Because I knew the filings that I filed, and then Nelson would come out with an official statement. Pissed. So when he came out in 2020 upset with people for his changes in the 2019 endowment, yeah, that was me. That's who he was talking about. Trying to claim that it's inspired of Jesus. We can do whatever we want. You brought back polygamy. Even my ex knew it was polygamy. And she's a casual Mormon who just participates. I was kind of surprised that she was able to independently recognize it. And it was a struggle to get it out of her too, because she is of the kind that we can't talk about what goes on in the temple, and you're now an apostate, anti-Mormon, antichrist coral whore, Travis. But we're still married. No, we're officially annulled. But we're still sealed. No, we can only have sex if you marry me in the temple. We don't need to be married in the temple. We're still sealed. It's just the civil marriage that we need. But you have to come back to church. She just, that's her. So that's over with, finally, getting into here. Cut off the cord of the tragedy of my life. So yeah, do your research, people, because there's a whole bunch of stuff in the background that you're missing by being a casual Mormon and a lazy and lax disciple.